Welcome to Social Situation, episode 18, a special episode. Erin, we have some news today that we want to share, and then also just talk about a few different topics. So, right off the bat, I think I can just share that situation as we know it today is going to look a little bit differently. Well, maybe a lot differently. I'll be stepping away from my role, which I'll talk about in a little bit of detail. And the future of the podcast is, TBD. And I think, Erin, you'll let the audience know about where the next steps are and where things are going there. But yeah, a lot to share off the bat. So first of all, welcome to the episode. Sorry, I just dropped that like a lot of information all at once. Erin, welcome to the episode. Thank you so much again for making the time and bearing with me as I shared that news.
Thanks, Trevor. No, totally fine to jump right in. I love it. We're setting our guests up for what's to come, and it's great to see you as always. I can't believe it's been 2 years of us doing this. It's wild. I feel like that email I got from you with a link to a super organized deck, multi-page deck, I should say, proposing that I co-host a podcast with you. I feel like that was just yesterday. It was over 2 years ago now, which is wild, and it's just been the most fun and fulfilling journey working with you. And it's just been such a highlight of my career and of my work as a solopreneur. And I've just loved the opportunity to connect with you every week and have some awesome, awesome guests on and learn so much from them. We've had guests from across the impact sector doing so many diverse things. And it's just been a lot of fun to bring them in and to enjoy conversations, to learn so much about their journeys, and to do all of this alongside you, Trevor. So thank you for inviting me on the podcast journey. It was definitely something I never thought I would do. I did not know the first thing about podcasting, but you helped me to, ease those fears and jump right in. So thank you.
Oh, well, no, I mean, look, it was, there was a purpose to it, which was around me, especially thinking about my business and its growth and where it was at the time. And I know, you had, also recently launched Elevate Social Impact. Shout out to Elevate Social
Thank
Impact.
you.
And we had so much in common that was complementing, the types of organizations we wanted to work with, the way we wanted to build companies, the way that we wanted to structure our own lives around being social entrepreneurs. I think there was just a lot of alignment there. And so, bringing those worlds together, talking about the topics we've talked about has made so much sense. And it's also been a really rewarding and fun journey at the same time. So, I feel very good. And yes, two years of actually doing this, and then probably another, you know, at least, 6 months of planning on top of that, maybe even longer. I can't
Totally.
even remember how
Yeah.
long we took, but we definitely took our time to think about and be really intentional about all of the things that we've done. And now, you fast forward 18 episodes 2 years later, all of the things that have happened for both of us, and I've seen you grow in your business and a lot change in your own life, and same with me as well. And it's interesting to like look back at that time and see the evolution and the journey we've both been on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. I feel like we have both come a long way through, our work. You have done so many incredible things in your career, which I'll let you kind of share with the audience. And then so much, obviously, volunteer wise as well, leadership wise. So it's just been really fun to be on that journey with you too and to hear all those updates. And I always love that when we start every kind of catch up call, we always talk about like, what did we do over the weekend or how are things going in our personal lives? I feel like I've really, even though we have never actually met in person, which is so crazy, I wasn't sure if I was going to announce that here or not. We just don't live in the same place and it hasn't happened yet that we have been able to meet in person. I'm so confident now that, I'm on the West Coast of the US, you're West Coast Canada. It's not too long of a flight. I'm positive it's going to happen. I don't know when, but hopefully in the shorter term because I would love to, yeah, I'd love to finally meet Trevor, although I know Trevor, but yeah, it's been such a fun ride. And yeah, do you want to kind of give the audience an update about your current work and kind of, the decision to kind of change things up social situation wise at this point? I think that might be helpful for, yeah, people to understand a
Yeah.
bit more.
Well, I think I mentioned, we talked about org match my company and where we were at 2 years ago, and we were very much in a growing phase, with our, having a software product and tool. We're working with different companies on helping them achieve their community investment goals and tell their stories. And we've talked about some of the examples. I'm sure longtime listeners have heard the org match ads on our show. So but a lot's happened. And I mean, earlier this year, I made a decision to sell the company and to transition out, and that has led to a whole bunch of changes, at the same time. While I was, in the later phases of the company and was getting some more time back and trying to figure out what the future looked like, I was also leading a not-for-profit organization as executive director, and like just the craziness of trying to do both of those roles at the same time for a year was really a lot. And so I think, getting both the organization to a good place, then on the nonprofit world, and being able to hand it off to new leadership, and then being able to get org match to a place where we could actually, sell the company, and then for me, transition into a new role with Charitable Impact Foundation, where I'm now working, back in the real world with a real job, not just working for myself anymore. And I mean, that's been great. And I mean, I should say that, like, my work has been incredibly supportive. Obviously, we want, Charitable Impact Foundation, all of us in this space want to find more opportunities for collaboration and talking about what does philanthropy look like? How do we effectively engage with donors? How do we effectively work with doers and change makers on the ground? How do we bring experts into this work? I mean, and so that's still, I think, very relevant for my day-to-day work, but it's also been an opportunity for me to refocus and think about, where do I want to spend my time and energy moving forward now that so much has changed, and being in a place where I had very little time. I'm thinking about what to take time back for to work on some of my own goals and the things that are important to me. And so I've been trying to, just over the holidays, which were recently, trying to find some time to do some writing, and just like sit down and do some creative writing for fun for myself, and try to get back to that. And it's been a really good opportunity for me to, yeah, get back to like some of those things that I haven't had time for in the last really, 4 years, 4.5 years since Org Match was founded, and taking some time to, be with friends and family that I haven't seen as much, and doing all of that stuff. And so, yeah, for me, this decision and everything that I'm kind of doing in my life, and have been trying to plan for in my life, has been all about like, how do I, yeah, sort of, set these boundaries and focus areas, and try to say no more, which is like the hardest thing for me right now because I always want to be part of everything. But it's been really good to practice that discipline a little bit more, and to give myself some of that time back.
I love that. And I think that is, yeah, definitely something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. Like, how do we set those boundaries? How do we prioritize wellness and taking care of ourselves and making time for ourselves, and not getting kind of lost in the shuffle of all the busyness of work and our day-to-day lives. So I applaud you for focusing on what makes most sense for you at this phase in life and giving yourself time back to do things like creative writing, which is awesome. I love that. And just having more pockets of time. Because I know you've had a very busy past few years being kind of on the outside, but a little bit on the inside hearing, what you've been up to. I know you've done a lot and made such an impact. And you'll obviously continue to do that, but I'm glad that you are taking some time back for yourself that is so, so well deserved. So that's awesome.
Well, thanks, Aaron. And I know, like, you've been through, a lot of change, and, real movement, from one end of the country to another, and growing your family, and growing your business at the same time. So, I've seen the growth as well, and it's really incredible to see how you've been able to do all of those things together, and, still show up with the energy that you have, and delivering for your clients in the way that you do.
Thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, it's definitely been a busy few years moving from New York to Los Angeles and having our daughter. And it's been so full of joy and so full of busyness and all the things and kind of figuring out the direction of my business because it's now been 3 years of Elevate Social Impact, which I cannot believe. It's been such a joy. That's my other baby, such a joy to build this thing. As you know, when you build something of your own, you take all the pride, you take all the stress, all the emotions come with it because it's your own. So it's definitely been such a journey, but I'm so grateful to be on it and so grateful that I get to support impact leaders and individuals that are going through transitions in their careers, looking for their next opportunity, that are trying to figure out how to have more meaningful and fulfilling careers, more purpose driven lives. So it's been a lot of fun because I get to work with really cool people that are doing really impactful work. And growing Moms and Social Impact this past year has also been so fulfilling, so rewarding to bring moms together that work in the impact space, kind of an area that I wasn't necessarily, I should say the two areas combining as a space I wasn't necessarily seeing. So wanted to create that space for people who were going through the ups and downs and highs and lows and challenges and beautiful moments of parenting alongside all of that we experience in the impact space. So it's been a lot of fun to grow that too. And yeah, we'll see what the future holds. But it's been so fun to kind of share in these moments with you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, speaking of remarkable people, we've had some really great people on the podcast over our last 18 episodes. There's a few, I mean, I definitely think that every episode and every guest we've had, I've definitely learned something from, and there's been some really interesting focus or a topic that comes up that maybe we didn't expect, and we go down and we learn more and we explore some areas, which has been really exciting and fun. And yeah, there were a few that stood out for me. Again, finding a lot of value in every conversation, but just a few that kind of stood out for me around that I was thinking about. But Aaron, what about you? I mean, we've had so many remarkable guests. Are there any conversations that you're reflecting on from these last 2 years, and you're thinking like this really stood out, or it's really stuck with me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And totally agree with you. We've had some amazing guests doing amazing things on the podcast, and it's been really fun to hear about their own journeys and like I said earlier, learn from them because there are a lot of topics. I mean, AI, tech, and social impact, those are not my areas of expertise. A lot of, humanitarian work or international development work. I learned so much from, I mean, all across the gamut, but it was great to of course, talk to people doing similar work, but then also learn from folks doing things totally different, where I just kind of sat there listening and, acting like a sponge, taking it all in. One standout guest for me was Jen, who's Chief Engagement Officer and a career coach at Be Social Change. I've known Jen for many years, and I feel like just the way in which she builds community is so beautiful and so natural and so organic. She runs this incredible community for impact professionals. It's out of New York, but it was really cool to hear of her journey throughout COVID of this thing growing into a global community when we all had to come together virtually, and how she so seamlessly transitioned from local to global. And how they show up for folks at all stages of their careers, how they bring people together who are looking for relationship building opportunities, contacts, whatever it may be. And I really love how they are inclusive. Everyone in the impact space is welcome there, and just really appreciate her approach to this sort of work. She's so compassionate. She leads with so much passion. You can tell by talking to her that this is not a job, but this is her kind of leaning into her purpose. And just, yeah, always love chatting with Jen. I also I loved talking to all of our guests. I should say that to start out. Another kind of standout guest for me was Carlos, who is the
Mhm.
founder and CEO of Good Ripple. And just his zest for life, his through and through commitment to making the world a better place. The fact that he's building a community of millions of change makers globally, that he is in it for the right reasons. For him, I know there's a true desire there to see change, whether it's, climate, whether it's social change, what have you. that he is truly invested, and he's just the kindest person. Every conversation I've had with him, we knew each other prior to this podcast, and it just filled me with so much joy, and loved hearing about his journey. And I should say for both Jen and Carlos as well, we got into talking about wellness and our own wellness journeys and practices, and going through different things in life and how those help to ground us and get us more kind of centered and focused on the kind of work we want to do, and also the impact of wellness and well-being on, the impact space, and how the two are so intertwined. And I know we talk a lot about that here on the podcast, just generally speaking. So it was just great to kind of hear Carlos's perspective on all of that, as well as Jen's. But tell me, Trevor, who kind of, yeah, stands out for you?
Well, I just in total agreement. I mean, I will always remember the conversations with Jen and with Carlos, for different reasons. And I think, yeah, I mean, you're touching on wellness is such a good point because they were also talking about like the scale by which they're able to pull people into their worlds. And I mean, Carlos' goal of engaging with so much of the world around this work and trying to make a network that's that large is really inspiring, right? And I think, yeah, for them, bring it back to wellness. Like you can't scale, you can't fulfill this work, you can't make an impact if you're not well yourself. And so, what are the conditions by which you're well so that you can help others be well, and then you can all scale together, right? And so I think that's right on. And how they're doing that in different ways too, I think is also really interesting in terms of showing like, you can do this, digitally and globally, and you can do this, locally through local events and communities at the same time. And there's a lot to bring together there. And yeah, I mean, I in full agreement. I think I took a slightly different tact around. And maybe this is just to do with sort of like the political circumstances we're in right now around um, DEI and philanthropy and giving back, and this notion or this myth that this is bad business, or like companies that give back or that measure equity or a triple bottom line are not successful. And it made me think about some of the guests we've had on here, and of course we've had lots of people with experience, yourself included, Aaron, working for companies and roles where you're showing that this is like highly, highly valuable work, for all sorts of reasons, and mostly because it helps build trust, right? And it builds trust with communities, it builds trust with people, and like through trust you can unlock so many other things. And so it made me think about the conversation with Tony and the New York Mets, and how major sports are connecting with community and building trust at that level. It made me think about Nina and Lemonade and the work that they were doing to take this work around community investment and social impact and incorporate it directly into the DNA of their brand, and to allow that to help grow the company overall, as their charitable work would reinforce the growth overall of their company, which I thought was just a really brilliant thing. And of course, seeing Lemonade go public and the success of that strategy is just a testament to how well they've done. And then Meridian Credit Union and our conversations there with Gazelle and with Sarah around how an established credit union, financial institution is putting social purpose at the very top of its agenda, and saying that this is part of our brand, this is part of how we organize ourselves, this is part of how we operate, it's how we message, and it's across all departments. And being able to see the complexity of an established financial institution being able to say, no, we're going to actually work around the idea of purpose and giving back and social impact. And again, allowing that to grow their community, their revenues, their impact as a result of that. And so it becomes a self fulfilling mechanism, a positive feedback loop that, in terms of what have been able to do. So, those are the conversations that sit to me in terms of like, especially as we're hearing these things that are not true around, community investment or social impact is bad business. Like we have heard from these amazing people who have given us amazing case studies around why the opposite is actually true. And I think, anybody who is hearing that from the market, like they're not interested in community investment, just needs to listen to one of those episodes to hear why, and to hear some arguments for why that's not the case.
I totally agree with that, Trevor. And yeah, I mean, those conversations were so stand out in my mind, especially in this current climate we're in. And to see those companies commit to impact and kind of silence the noise and decide, no, this is something we are prioritizing. Our business is, centered around it. It is baked into our DNA is really inspiring, especially at a time like now when there is so much pushback, but to see those companies just kind of power through and stay true to their values and their impact goals, has just been such a bright light in some challenging times we've been through recently in the impact space. So yeah, those are definitely some really awesome conversations. And I guess kind of thinking, Trevor, about the way of the world right now in the impact space. It's been quite volatile up and down. I'm curious your thoughts on kind of the future. Like what are we looking towards? What are you thinking about as we think about the future of the impact space?
So I'm thinking about how we can bring people closer together. And, obviously technology is a means of doing this, but we should also be doing this in person as much as possible in our local communities and trying to connect across geographies as much as we can in person when we're able to and when it makes sense. But, really, giving back, philanthropy, social purpose, impact, like however we want to define it, it's not going anywhere because the challenges we have in society ultimately are massive and in some cases existential. And so the work continues. And I want to think about this more in terms of partnership. Like everyone has a role to play in the challenges that we face. These are as individuals, as companies, foundations, governments. Everybody has a different role to play. And the question is, what's the right role and what's most effective? And is everyone going to be playing, in good faith and on good terms? And I think those are the conditions we want to set, fighting for democracy, rule of law. I think that's very foundational just so we can have a playing field where we can all agree that these are the terms that we're going to solve problems under. And then showing up for each other to support each other too, and making it non-transactional, making it really about how are we achieving that impact and what's the common cause that we all want to see, and um, you know, rowing the boat in the same direction, right? That's what I think it's all about, and especially when um, the sector is challenged, when funding is cut and withheld, when the market has a downturn and there's less giving as a result, or when charities are struggling at the magnitude of achieving their missions. I mean, these are especially the times when we want to think about how can we show up for each other and build community. So I think the work's being done. We're seeing it. We're speaking with so many amazing people on this show, in our day-to-day lives who are doing the work. And that is what inspires me. I know that work is going to continue. I mean, we've asked people the legacy question when they've come on here, and so many people have talked about these amazing legacies, and I believe every single one of them is going to achieve what they've set out to because of their passion and their focus on this work. So that's the future. The future is everyone that's doing the work today and continuing to do it, and the people who decide to join us on the cause. And I think the best we can do is just make sure everyone is supported, going back to your wellness theme as much as possible, Erin.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, Trevor. It's such a great reflection. And I think the common thread as well is community, right? We specifically changed the focus of the podcast this past year to focusing on social impact leaders that lead communities because we deemed that is so important. And you obviously alluded to this in terms of partnerships, in terms of coming together, supporting one another. I think that's where it's at in a time where we can feel so disconnected and so siloed and so alone on our journeys. I think that us coming together is going to create the greatest impact. I also think, as you spoke to before, showing the value of impact and really proving why this is not a nice to have, but a need to have in companies, in major corporations, what have you. Because unfortunately, it feels like a time where we do need to prove that because it's not being prioritized. And so I think, yeah, us kind of banding together for what's right and for the good of society is what we all need. So And Trevor, you kind of teed me up for a question for you because we, like you said, we always ask that legacy question. As we kind of close out here, I would love to hear, and I'm putting you on the spot now. I would love to hear what kind of legacy you hope to leave as you think about the future of your impact career and just your life in general.
Oh my goodness, what a question. Yeah, and I don't know how ready I am to answer this, but I've been thinking more about like my purpose and like the work I want to do, and I think so much of it for me comes back to human dignity and just being able to center the dignity of all people in what we're doing. I think there's still a lot of um, just inequality in the world, and so much of that comes down to how people treat each other and how we view each other and judge each other, and so. I'm trying to think about, yeah, how we can pull people together, be more curious about one another as opposed to being judgmental or coming to absolute conclusions on people. Um, and yeah, I mean that dignity piece to me is a big one. I think I think about examples of people who have, gone and met their enemies head on and welcomed them over to their sides and thinking about people who are yeah, proactively just trying to listen in order to solve problems and doing it without judgment. So that dignity piece for me is a big one. It's probably the one I've been thinking out more so. And I think that's where I'm going to be spending more of my time in my work. I mean, with my foundation right now, what's so great is I get to work on a lot of different causes that center dignity in different ways. So whether that's dignity of health and someone's right to have effective health care when they're dealing with a chronic disease, whether that is somebody that's fighting around for mental health advocacy and being able to say that like you know my mental health is not in a good place and that's okay. I'm still going to show up and be myself regardless. Whether that's yeah, the dignity that people have around being able to access food and shelter and basic needs. There's so many different ways this works. And so what I love about my current role is being able to sort of take this dignity purpose and like center it in some different ways depending on where that lack of dignity is coming from. And I think like as I see that and as I see the world more through these lenses, I can see that yeah, how society is set up for us to be in opposition with each other is so much of the reason we can't get things done and why we can't solve these problems. And so I think if we can um, remind each other of the dignity that we all have, we'll be in a better place as a result. Yeah.
I love that. That's really beautiful. And you're already, I mean, you do that. I see this every time we connect. You treat everyone with so much dignity and so much respect, and you're welcoming of everyone. And I think that's just, yeah, such an amazing way you're approaching your work. Your foundation is so lucky to have you, and it's such a cool opportunity as well to support orgs that are committed to, dignity and that have that as like a center pillar of their work too. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very thankful to be able to do it and to, I mean, it's taken me a long time just to like get as, this clear, and I know I've got a lot more clarity that I can provide on it. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about what the future holds, and I mean, this entire project has really helped me to lean into all of that work more and more. And I mean, we talk about dignity a lot and why we're doing this work about ourselves, about the communities we share, about who we're fighting for to protect, provide services to, or provide resources to, depending on what the cause is. So it has been so good to help develop that and to learn that so much of this work is complementary to that legacy that I want to leave. So I mean, I don't know what the legacy looks like per se, but I know that like on the journey, I think if we can focus on dignity as a common, value and purpose driver, that will lead to a good legacy. I just don't know what it is yet.
Totally fine. No, I think that's beautiful. I think that's such a great legacy to leave, which you're already, yeah, working hard on. I think that's definitely, I mean, such an impact you're already having by treating others with so much dignity and respect. So I'm, yeah, just really excited to continue to follow you on your journey of, making such a difference in your community and beyond. Um, and as we wrap here, Trevor, is there anything else that you want to share? I can share a little bit about kind of the future of social situation, but anything else that's top of mind for you?
Well, I just want to say thank you. It's been such a great privilege to be able to do this alongside you and develop the relationship we have. And I know it will lead to us meeting in person one day soon. I'm certainly not going anywhere. But I'm just want to say thank you and thank you to all of our guests and to all of our listeners for being on the journey with us as far as we've come so far, and hopefully to continue going where you go next, Erin, which I know you've said you'll share more information about when the time is right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, doing social situation without Trevor is it's gonna be a different
We'll be
journey. So
fine.
yes, it has just been, yeah, the greatest gift to be able to do this alongside you. So for our listeners right now, I'm kind of figuring out the direction of social situations. So stay tuned in the coming months, more to come. But at this point, we just kind of want to focus on wrapping things up, as a duo and kind of yeah, reflecting on the past couple years together. And we definitely encourage anyone listening who hasn't listened to past episodes to go back and listen. There's so many great nuggets of wisdom and information and inspiration in there. We want to thank our incredible guests who have brought just so much to this podcast, who have brought so much about their own work and how we can do better and better show up for one another and community, and how we can make our world a better place, and who are on the ground doing the thing. Just thank you to them for their incredibly impactful work and for joining us on this podcast. And to our listeners, all of you out there, thank you so much for listening. Every once in a while, someone reaches out to say how much they've enjoyed the podcast, and that's just been music to our ears. Knowing that folks are benefiting and learning and feeling inspired and taking away a few nuggets of wisdom from our guests. So really appreciate you all being on this journey with us and being patient as we've taken a few pauses here and there. And most especially, Trevor, thank you to you. Like I said, it's been such a joy, and I'm just wishing you all the best with your work and all the many things you are doing. And I'm excited to stay in touch, and we will definitely be meeting. So I look forward to that.
Likewise. Well, thank you, Erin. It's been a real pleasure, and I'll say bye for now, and but definitely not forever. And to all of our listeners, like please feel free to be in touch with either of us anytime. We're always happy to listen, collaborate, whatever you have in mind. We just appreciate all of it. So thank you again, and I guess this is us signing off.
Bye for now. Thanks, everyone.